Hello, humans. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Michaela. I'm an evolutionary and predictive astrologer. And today we're talking about the Leo full moon that's happening on February 1st of 2026. I'm going to bring up the chart with the software that I'm using, Luna Astrology software. And I also have a 10% discount code if you're interested in trying out the program. I've tried many astrology software programs. This is by far one of my favorites. And they also allow you to pay by month. So you can have a trial period if you would like, and it's super affordable. So if that's something you're interested in, you can look at my discount code down below. So we're going to get straight into the chart because I hate long intros on YouTube. And here's the Leo full moon. I have casted it for the East Coast because that's where I am currently. If you're going to bring this up your chart, just make sure you cast the time appropriately. So a Leo full moon can be a very fun time. It can be a very creative time. We can get a boost of self-confidence, an ability to boost our self-expression, maybe feel a little bit more attractive, even more vibrato in our life. Overall, more creativity and confidence can come over the day before and the day after. However, like astrology will provide us deeper layers, I'm finding that there's some complexity around this full moon, and it's actually very important to analyze because we are stepping into a new set of eclipses later this month on the 17th of February, which are going to initiate an eclipse cycle in the Aquarius and Leo axis. And for a few reasons, that's important because we are now in Pluto and Aquarius time. So we have Pluto as a backdrop in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And that's going to impact society on so many levels. We're going to see a lot of acceleration when it comes to technology and humanitarian issues and our own personal freedoms and individual self-expression when it comes to society and humanity. So I'm looking at this full moon as a stillness, like a point of stillness for you to meditate on after you go through what I'm looking at and the phases that we're in and the cycle that we're in. And you can kind of break it down on a deeper layer. So full moons are all about opposition, right? Because the moon is opposite the sun in the sky. So with the sun in Aquarius, the moon in Leo on this day. And with oppositions, there tends to be extremes that show up. Just because two energies are on polar opposite sides of each other. And really that comes down to being able to have good listening skills, an ability to hear, see, listen to an objective opinion or another side and hold space and create space for that. And hopefully find a middle ground or a medium or integration point instead of going to polar opposite extremes. I don't do mundane astrology, so I'm not really going to touch on anything that's happening collectively in the world, but we can kind of see those themes, right? But from an evolutionary lens, which is going to be more directed into your own personal journey and how you can take part in the rest of society and enhance your own personal life. This full moon could very much illuminate a conflict within yourself where there is a part of your identity that is wanting to and needing to be integrated into yourself now, and a part of your identity where there's a sense of security and safety, and you've almost got one foot in that door while you're trying to put your other foot in the other door. And this can be a point of illumination of where you're at and your environment, your friends, your groups, your communities, your visions, and your goals are going to provide you the reflection of where you're at in that point in your journey and provide you, if you take a little bit of time, which I will recommend, given the nature of this horoscope, if you give yourself a little bit of time to retreat and reflect, you will find the answers where adjustment is needed to be made in order for you to integrate this new emerging sense of self that will be illuminated under this full moon. So we'll look at the chart, right? And especially for those learning astrology or, who know how to read a chart even if you don't, you can always learn more. So we have the moon here, which is creating an opposition to not only the sun, but Pluto, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. And that is a massive stellium in the Aquarius sector of our chart. Okay, so first off, the sun is going to illuminate your sense of self and your identity and give you an ability to give yourself an objectivity of, where is your creative potential? Where is your heart's desire right now? Where do you feel like you're able to shine? Where are you integrating levels of confidence in yourself? And maybe where are you not? Where are you not stepping up? Where are you not showing up? Where may you lack confidence or a feeling like you have a sense of purpose and, meaning in life that can be infused into something in your future and your goals and where you're going. Okay. I want to address this Mars Sun conjunction right now. That Mars Sun conjunction is in a balsamic phase. So a balsamic phase is all about bringing something to closure and to an end, right? A releasing point. A balsamic phase means two planets have started at one point in their journey and had a full entire cycle. And now there is a point where integration is fully achieved and there's a need to release and let go because there's a new beginning being brought in. And so there's a sense of the self under this lunation that gets illuminated where there's a part of yourself where there was once a desire or an instinctual pull to be something, to do something, to become something, to do something in a certain way, act in a certain way, look a certain way, be a certain way, what have you. Depends where it's happening in your life, of course. But there's a necessary pause to realize that there is a part of the life now that is coming to a culmination that was once a desire, but now has been fully lived and served its purpose essentially and can be integrated and released and let go. Now, this can be like a challenging time and a frustrating time because it can be frustrating to release control essentially, right? It's almost like that thing provided a safety net at one point and you don't know what the new energy is going to unfold for you. But there's also opportunities here for this balsamic phase, this one part of an identity to come to a closure. There is also opportunity here for new things to emerge, okay? And that's signified by the Venus Sun in the new phase conjunction and the sun Mercury in the new phase conjunction, and these are all opposite the moon. But on one side Mars is opposite the moon in a closing phase, in a balsamic phase, bringing closure and an end to something, an end to an old desire, an end to an old identity that you're holding on to. And on the other side we've got the Venus and Mercury here promising value and a new beginning of something that brings you self-worth, okay? Something that you hold a value to yourself. And really the Venus is important here because whatever new energy that is emerging for you. Maybe it's a new way of expressing yourself. Maybe it's a new level of confidence that you're trying to integrate into for work or for family or for love or what have you. Okay. This sense of newness that can be emerging in new, fresh energy. Maybe this has to do with, a state that you align with more, right? Given the trouble of the world, or a new place to live, right? Maybe that holds more value to you now than where you used to tie your identity to in the past. And so this Venus becomes very important because she is bringing in something that is of new value and something for you as an individual to consider, to move into. And I want to look at the aspects that are happening to Venus right now. The Sun and Venus are forming a square to the planet Uranus. And so the square can bring tension, right? It can bring a frustrating type of energy, again, like two platonic plates are rubbing against each other and one has to shift, right? They're colliding and just one has to give. And that's often what a square is going to feel like. It's this pushing dynamic and it's just pressure and pressure and pressure until one gives way. Okay. But this is a last quarter square. Venus and the sun, well, Venus to the planet Uranus is in a last quarter square, which means that there is dual awareness that gets illuminated under this full moon, where our values get illuminated, and we realize that we're participating in one version of ourself, but the other version of ourself is trying to emerge. It's almost like you are still staying in one version because there's a safety net there, a sense of security. So one part of the self is just like hanging on because it's worked for so long, but it's also looking at the other part of the self that wants to step away from that version, right? These are identity shifts, which can be a very painful, frustrating process for somebody to experience or go through if this is happening. If you once felt connected to where you grew up or your family environment and the religion that they held, and maybe you catered your whole entire childhood to around said religion, for instance, and all of a sudden you just feel like this doesn't align with my values anymore, but you're still wanting to feel connected and integrated into the family and what you grew up with, and you don't want to disappoint anybody, but at the same time you're looking at this other version of yourself that's trying to emerge and has a new set of values and wants to be integrated into new communities, new friendships, new alliances, things that are more aligned to give you freedom of your own personal individuality and self-expression. Well, here's the square here. Here's the pressure. So the pressure from Venus to Uranus and this disseminating square is what needs to be dropped. And you can be tempted to go back and retreat at this point in time to old versions of yourself to catch yourself when the ego gets challenged, illuminated by the full moon, when you feel like your needs aren't being received by others and others could feel like their needs aren't being received by you, signified by this full moon opposition. It can be very conflicting, very extreme. Okay. So you can be tempted to kind of go back into the security, go back into what feels comfortable. But the energy here is asking for us to step into new alignment, new identity shifts. There are so many aspects happening in the sky right now that is saying, detachment is needed to what's being dropped because we are going through shifts in our own personal lives. The evolutionary intention here is to grow and to expand and become more aligned and free with what truly makes us feel like an individual so that we can have more joy, have more creativity, have more self-expression, have more love, have more to give, instead of operating under these pressure dynamics where we're not able to expose ourselves or be free with ourselves, or at least build up the confidence to be able to navigate through life and participate in change and progression in our own personal lives and in the exterior world. Now, the sun here also forms and in conjunction to Jupiter and Cancer, which is retrograde. So it might very much be likely that some of you are experiencing self-criticism or an inner critic when it comes to your beliefs that are structured around your self-identity, right? That's Jupiter in Cancer. So what is your belief structure and who do you believe that you are on your inner self, who you are when you're home alone, nobody else is around, your opinions, your faith, your beliefs, your perspective, the way that you view the world. You can make excuses under this inconjunction, this type of inconjunction here, to be fearful of stepping into who you are because there's fears of how the world will accept you or not. So you can make excuses or you can make adjustments under this period. And that's what Jupiter retrograde is signifying here, is to throw off the opinions of the external family and society, and their beliefs and everything else for a moment. I'm not saying that your parents or your children or your significant other or your best friends, like I'm not saying that they don't matter, but for this moment in time, Jupiter retrograde is, hey, self-reflect, go within. That's why I'm saying take some time under this illumination to meditate, take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, take a whole day if you can, to just ask yourself, what do you believe in? What is your truth? What is your perspective? And are your choices and your ego right now and your identity, is it aligned with the future self of what you're trying to achieve or where you're trying to go or what you're trying to accomplish here? And it's often that the fears are going to show up as well because we've got that Jupiter is also at the same time forming a square to Chiron. So there's the fear of the failure that can come in. And Chiron has been in Aries for a long time, and it is wrapping up this year in Aries, but Chiron in Aries has been trying to help us heal our self-identity issues and our ability to take up space and be brave and have courage and harness direction in our life, right? There's a wound there that we've all been going through with Chiron and Aries, and this square can bring up the fear of failure. Two things, the fear of failure. So we might not act on the things under this illumination because we're a fear of that. We're fear of failing, or we're fearful that the world, Jupiter, is not going to accept us. But all these Aquarius planets, the full moon itself, is asking you to release yourself of the judgments and the criticisms. Okay, release yourself of those inner critic things. The inner critic can be helpful and adjustful for us because we can make our own adjustments, okay? But it's not to keep you paralyzed and not making movements. It's just small adjustments towards the bigger whole. And I did want to pull out that the moon, which I usually don't use sesquiquadrates, but this felt important today, that the moon forming that aspect to Saturn is most definitely going to show you where you might meet challenges through your external environment, okay? This is a Leo new moon, so it's known to be a little dramatic, okay? We will definitely see drama on the collective scale, but you might see a little bit in your personal life too, especially when you start to claim new levels of confidence and that starts to shine and emerge within you, okay? So you might experience these challenges from your external environments, but Saturn and Pisces here is collapsing some of those structures that once served its purpose, But Saturn is moving into Aries into a new sign later this month, around the 13th of February. So allow those challenges to show you things and know that you can meet the needs of other people in your environment. This does not mean you need to be totally radicalized where you're just like living on the outskirts of society and you're like, F you all. It does not mean that. It just means that there's a smaller aspect in here where your personal will meet challenges in your environments. But this is an illumination, once again, for you to look at and understand, well, am I a part of the right things? Am I a part of the right environments? Am I keeping myself stuck in one place when my values are shifting and they're meant to go in another? Who is helping you grow? Who is giving you the confidence? Who is letting you shine? And ultimately, what is everything in life reflecting back at you right now? You know, Aquarius is futuristic. It is living somewhat in the future and it's breaking down systems so that we can progress and create change and accelerate things in our life and get unstuck in patterns that leave us stagnant and stale for a little while. And ultimately, all those challenges that we will experience on that spectrum give you a more sense of freedom and an ability to be yourself and shine your light into the world, which is the ultimate gift. It's the ultimate Leonic gift is what is your special purpose and how do you self-express? And then how does that feed into the rest of society? Because everybody has a special gift. Everyone has a way to feed back into society when they're operating from a high, like their heart space, their heart level, you know, from their pure intention of themselves. So I think that's it. I think that was enough to break down. There's obviously a lot going on in the chart here. But as we wrap up this nodal period with the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, you know, there is this need to let go and release a lot of patterns in our life, make those small adjustments so that we can get ready for the new identities and the new self to come in, to be able to self-express oneself and to be able to participate in a greater whole. Okay. So really right now with the North Node in Pisces, we're learning to have new levels of compassion and empathy for ourselves and other people during this journey. And how deeply is that needed right now? So if this video helped, please let me know. I would love your feedback. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments down below. And of course, if you would like to book a reading with me to forecast the year ahead or any upcoming transits that are happening for you, evolutionary readings, solar return readings, year ahead readings, we can do them all. I love it. And or if you want spiritual coaching side as well, be sure to reach out. You can find me on Instagram, which is my link down below, or reach out by website at embodiedbymac.com. And I wish you guys a grateful moon. Okay, have a great day.